now to, let's say, the last section. Do a bit of personal questions.
Okay.
So let's say I'm a young researcher and I've just finished university and I want to get into biostatistics. What do I do? Where do I start from?
Well, I think if you think about it from a very young age, we're all dealing with data. We're all dealing with numbers, whether it's, I like this better, I have more of this, I have more of that. So I think I think there's very few areas I can think where data and numbers don't come in, and in a way we all do our own analysis in our own head. So the starting point to me is if you're in high school or go to college, take a course in statistics, take a course in data analytics, because it will give you a different perspective on how to look at things, even if you're in a different field. So don't be afraid to take, because people are usually scared of math and numbers, but actually they make sense. There's no gray zone when it comes to data analysis. It's either this or not. I mean, there's no, it's how we interpret it that creates the problem. So I would always encourage people, take a course, go outside of your comfort zone. That, oh, I didn't like math or statistics in high school, I'm not going to take anything in college, but take a course. Just to see, because you never know how you're gonna where you're gonna find yourself and what in your career. So that's my advice. Take a course, and I think it's a little bit easier probably in academic environments where that's part of your education. You have to be exposed to your elective courses that have to be outside your field. So that's one thing I enjoyed coming here. In retrospect thinking, I mean, I had friends who left at the same time and studied, and their focus was the same as mine, but I took classes, one of my favorite classes I took was medical geography. As a biochemistry major, medical geography was like, why are you taking that class? I took statistics at the School of Public Health. I mean, it's like, why are you taking that? So that you have to open your horizon to because you never know how and when and you're going to use it and where it's going to lead you to. I mean, probably the medical geography class took me in the direction of public health because I was fascinated by the idea that geography is destiny. I mean, where you grow up, where you live your life might determine your health. So there's parameters that you cannot control, but there's some you can control. But at the same time, if you look at sort of where do things happen in terms of health, might be determined by where you are. So so the light bulb went off. It's like, oh, that's an interesting area. Maybe that's where I should go.
It is. And I think there's another point here. The thing of cross-fertilization. Like you do something that's outside of what you normally do, and it can open doors of like contributing with other people or collaborating, etc.
Yes, exactly.
So what's most important in life for you?
Well, besides my kids, most important to me is sort of I have this, I don't want to call it struggle, but it's a continuous pursuit and curiosity around trying to answer things. I feel I'm never satisfied. No, I'm always satisfied with what I'm doing professionally, but it's always that longing for what's out there. And I think, again, looking back at my trajectory, I would never have thought I would be starting an institute at Yale on olive oil. I mean, there's no, if you told me 25 years ago, this is what you'll be doing, I was like, no, you're out of your mind. I'll be doing this and that and the other. So, and I think that speaks to how I approach life in general. It's always curious to learn, curious to pursue something that it might appear not as easy at the beginning, but that to me, maybe I'm challenging myself in that pursuit. But it's really important for me and to sort of discover things that are for my own benefit, whether it has impact on others. Obviously, that's the better thing, to have impact on other people's lives. But that curiosity has always been with me. And I think in a different way, the fact that I left and came as far as I could, I guess, was this pursuit of something different and what's out there.
I think this is a characteristic that kids have, curiosity, and sometimes it's taught out of them. And I don't know. So who do you admire?
There's a lot of people. When I saw the question, I'm like, okay, who do I admire? There's a lot of people that I admire, both from a lot of different walks of life. But I have to say, the person that has always been the role model for me is my son.
Wow. Favorite book?
Favorite book. And this goes back to my point of curiosity. I'm one of those people who, at any given time, I have 4 or 5 books started. So every time I go back to the book number 1, I have to start, go back a few pages to remember where I was. But I have to say, one of the most powerful books I read, it was many, many years ago, was by Hanan Ashrawi. She was the Palestinian delegation representative at the Oslo peace talks with Israel. She wrote she wrote her account of sort of her insight, and with great integrity, and told it as it was for both sides. And it's called This Side of Peace. Very powerful book that I think resonated with me for many reasons, because it was not she was not coming out as, I'm a Palestinian, therefore I'm going to say things that appeal to Palestinians. I'm going to say things as a human being with my integrity and the insight I have from these conversations. And that resonated with me a lot. And part of my sort of, we grew up in Cyprus with that idea of, if you say something, from whether you're from one side or the other, you have to please and appeal to your side. And sometimes we are afraid to cross that line, which actually we should, if we want to uphold our integrity.
Mm-hmm. That's, yeah, I think that's good advice. What about a favorite movie?
Favorite movie, by far, Cinema Paradiso. And again, you hit it on the nail. It's that kid in me who always wants to find something that is very fascinating. And I've maintained that, and I probably have seen that 10 times in my life, and every time I'm always amazed by how well it was done. But there's something that pulled me in from the first time I saw it.
I'll be honest, I haven't seen it.
You have to see that movie. Very amazing movie. And I think, my kids tease me that, you're like a little kid. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. We all do our work, and we're serious when we have to be, but you have to let yourself be that kid and never lose that.
This is interesting. When you hang around with kids, you understand these things.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you be able to take from this. The same with hanging out with elders. I mean, you have to do both. You can't just hang out with people at your own age.
Exactly. Actually, somebody, I can't remember who it was, like a known person, said, if you want to learn about life, you spend a lot of time with people who are much older than you, because they've been through life, and you have to spend time with people a lot younger than you, because they will tell you what from their angle. So it's true.
It's true, and I think another thing we get from young people is how simple simply they think, because now it's just everything's too much information and this and that, and they just look at the world very simply. It reduces stress, etc. Anyway, big tangent.
Yes.
So last question: what advice would you give to your younger self?
I think, looking back, even though I've done a lot of things out of the box, so to speak, I mean, I both career-wise and where I've been and where I've gone, I still feel I could have done a little bit better in exposing myself to different cultures, not through traveling, and I mean, because I've done a lot of that, but immerse myself into learning another language. And I remember in college, I always said, well, I'll take Spanish next year, because in Southern California, pretty much everybody speaks Spanish. I'll learn it. Oh, I'll take it next year and the year after. And I ended up not doing that. Now I feel that that's something that, especially being in the olive oil world, knowing another language, whether Italian or Spanish, would have been, and I try, but there's not a lot of time to dedicate to learning that, unless I move somewhere where I'm forced to speak the language. So that's something I should have done on that level. From a personal standpoint, I think one of the things that I am learning is that I found myself over the years sometimes compromising not so much myself, but what I thought was the way forward for some things, and mainly because I didn't want to displease others. And I've learned that, well, those who are going to be around you have to accept you 100% who you are, very authentic. I mean, I think I've discounted a lot of my authenticity to some degree over the years, but now, and I think everything comes along with, your more experience in your career. You've achieved something. People see that you've grown, you've matured. So that comes along with that ability to be as authentic as you can. But I think earlier on, when I was younger, probably I was discounting that and compromising a little bit. But you live and learn.
I can see that in myself, pleasing people.
Yes.
I wanna thank you so much for this, and it's been an amazing experience and very helpful experience for me as well, and I'm sure for other people who are going to listen to this podcast. So thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you, Andreas, and thank you for this initiative. It's great.
All the best.
You too. Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed that, you can click the link in the description to watch the full podcast or listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and our website. You can also ask questions in the comments below, which will be directed to healthcare professionals in our future weekly episodes. Thank you so much for watching.